Hi everyone, delonewolf here, and welcome back to EVE Talk, your weekly look at the market in EVE Online. Now, CCP is planning to stream a CSM meetup tomorrow, which I think could be very interesting. I'm definitely going to try and catch that, because it's live, and if it's not too structured, too planned ahead, maybe they will accidentally leak something they're not meant to. This could be interesting from a development of EVE Online standpoint, but it could of course also be interesting from a market standpoint. If for instance they show a screenshot with mineral products or something like that that are needed for something that they're planning to develop, then of course something like that, if it's shown accidentally, could become an opportunity in the market. So that's why we're here. Of course, we're here for the market, but I'm definitely gonna plan to catch as much as I can from the CSM meetup tomorrow, which is going to be streamed live on the Twitch channel from EVE. As always, we'll just dive right in here. We'll start with plex. That's going to be at 110. 110, there we go. And plex are down a little bit, so a couple just got bought, but plexes were down to like 1,068 million. Now they're at 1,069.70, something like that for the sellers. The buyers are at 1,010, still just over a billion, but there is a bit of pressure showing up. Here is the chart at the tail end here. We're hesitating, 5-day moving average crossing or meeting the 20-day moving average. Once again, median daily prices also are going down very slowly. Volumes are still up from before the November expansion, but that also seems to be diminishing a little bit. I think it's normal. These are seasonal things that do come back. And a bottom May, June is something that I'm personally looking towards. 900 million is also anything below a billion, maybe on the seller side of things, is where I'll start to put up some buy orders and try to pick up some cheap plex. I think then we'll just keep dollar cost averaging as plex go down. It's my personal expectation, of course. I may be wrong on that. Stuff like FanFest, new announcements, big fights can always change the plex market quite drastically, but for now I'm seeing the signs of pressure, and this will only increase as people drop out from the game after the Ascension expansion a little bit. This should decrease demand for plex, but the supply is still going pretty strong at the moment, and I think that yeah, we'll just start to see that seasonal pressure mount up and hopefully culminate May, June. That is what it usually does. Next up, the pilot trading certificate. You can also see a bit of an inflection point here in the 5-day moving average, where we're going back down a little bit. So I think here pressure will be mounting as well. We had this increase in price here that was decently temporary. 1,060 for the sellers, it's even less than plex, and 996 million for the buyers, below 1 billion for the trading certificate. Definitely pretty interesting. One thing that I will check as well is the perimeter market. So plex are selling for 1,046 million and buyers are up to 1,035, 1,034. So there's also free courier hub in range station. Oh yeah, okay. So 2 jumps out in Urlan, someone is trying as well. But 1,034 to 1,046, that's definitely a much smaller margin. Still, it's always, of course, interesting if you're willing to risk buying plex in the trade hub. Then of course you can do good business. Now for an investment, to be honest, I would stick to the Jita market, but if you're looking to buy plex to use, then of course you should quickly jump over to perimeter, buy it for 15-16 million less. No, it's even more than that, 20-23 million less, and use it right away from there. So it's a nice little service right there, but I still think that the bulk of the trade is happening in Jita at the moment, and I'm seeing plex under pressure a bit. Next up, the body resculpt, also under pressure. Yeah, it's funnily enough, since the Ascension expansion, you could say that the body resculpt has come back in line with Plex. Before that, it was definitely its own market. Volumes are still abysmal though, less than 10 a day on average. And you can see here at the Ascension expansion, we decreased in price towards with Plex, and then January we increased in price a little bit, and here at the tail end we're back under pressure with the 5-day moving average clearly crossing the 20-day moving average. And the sellers of the body resculpts are probably not, well, there's a bit more coming in here. As you can see, in the last 24 hours, quite a few came in, small in volumes, just one, but they are definitely competing with each other just below the 299 million mark. The buyers are at 255 million. So small market. This one could actually be taken over. Nope, it's not. I thought that maybe this would be taken over by the trade hub. Only one sell order in the perimeter trade hub for the body resculpts. Skill extractors next. On the chart here, you can see if this is a precursor for Plex, it definitely confirms the pressure and that the increase in price early January was only a temporary thing. So we're clearly crossing the 5-day, the 20-day moving average with the 5-day moving average. Median daily prices also going down slowly, and as a result, sellers are at 245 million. Buyers are at 235 million. Volumes in the last 24 hours. 2 pages, yeah, around 2 pages of new skill extractors. There's definitely a bit more supply than demand at the moment in the Plex related stuff. Skill injectors though, that's a different story, and that is very interesting because it basically confirms my my theory from a few weeks ago that skill injectors are a very interesting investment opportunity, but they're also a bit more risky because they're dependent on the demand in skill points. What we can see here in right after the Ascension expansion, when you would think that more alpha clones would mean more demand for skill points, we actually had a sharp drop off here. So I think that people were expecting an increase in price, but were dumping too much skill injector stock. And as a result, we had an incredible buy opportunity for less than 600 million here all of a sudden. Currently, they're selling for 652 million, almost 10% increase, and the buyers are at 625 million. But then you can see that in the whole month of December, while Plex were coming down in price, skill injectors that had already recovered about half the loss were maintaining their price range. And here, when Plex and skill extractors are going down in price, we actually see a jump up from skill injectors. It's very difficult to say in advance what these are going to do. There's definitely more movement and there's more opportunity in the skill injectors, but I also think that it's much more of a risk to be using this one as an investment, because you need to be on the ball a lot more. It's a lot more tricky, I think, to decide on like a bottom where you would say, okay, I'm definitely gonna buy at this price, or a peak where you'd say, yeah, this is the right time to sell. It's always a lot more tricky, I think, to tell that in the skill injector market. Of course, if we're looking at this full chart here, 570 million, once the buy orders come into that range, I think we're pretty safe considering the last year. We're pretty safe at a good buy order territory. But at the moment, yeah, it looks like a peak of 625, 630, 640 are probably high range prices. The one thing, of course, is that this is impacted not only by the prices of Plex. Yeah, if Plex go down, skill extractors go down, then that is a part of the value of skill injectors that is basically gone. At that time frame, of course, we have a huge backlog. We have a really big market. If you look at volumes right here, last 24 hours, more than a full front page. People tend to sell in by the dozens of these things. Well, it's less than I thought. I thought there would be more, but it's actually a little bit less than I thought. In perimeter, there's a decent amount of them as well, although the volumes are quite, yeah, actually, they're actually pretty respectable in perimeter as well. So there's a huge amount of them, including some that have been produced at higher Plex prices. But if Plex go down, then this will put some pressure on skill injectors. It's just, as you can see here, quite surprising. All of a sudden, very strong demand for skill points all of a sudden can create sell opportunities in the skill injector market. And I would say over speculation with the Ascension expansion can actually create buy opportunities as well, where the way I'm seeing this here is that people were dumping way too many skill injectors way too quickly, expecting alpha clones to have a huge demand for those, causing the crash to take probably 1 or 2 weeks, which for Plex had a decrease in price for more than a month. So it's a very interesting one. It's also a pretty risky one. My sights are definitely set on Plex 900 million. I think at some point in the next few months we can get there, and then 1.2 billion is a good sell range. So I think maybe Plex is slower, but I think it's safer, because you never know when something might be dumped on the skill injector front by CCP. Something might be done by the players that would cause a drastic shift here. I think it's more likely in the skill injector market to have some serious disruptions that can cost you ISK than in the Plex market. Although, you know, 570 million, if I see buy orders in that trade range, I think I might be moving in on a couple myself there. Next up, minerals. That's going to be at 1040. There we go. We'll start with titanium. Not good news for titanium. This is clearly a trend break to a new low point. This is unexpected. I thought that with Noxium coming, not Noxium, but Mixon coming back a little bit, and titanium managing to hold around 5 ISK since the decrease in December, that we'd be okay. But nope, titanium is taking another sharp dive. So we should see a lot of sell orders here in the last week. Here we've got 89 competing for 475. Now we're going down to 460. 467 is the first respectable order, and it's what kind of an order? This is 2 billion units of titanium coming in at 4.67 ISK. That is definitely a really big volume that is being dumped here for a very low price. So I'm really surprised by this leg down. Look, I don't think that I would have said start buying titanium, but start saving for your titanium. Don't dump it on the market. Well, comparatively speaking, of course, you would have done better to sell it last week than try to sell it now. But I'm still hopeful. I personally still hope that at some point we'll see a resurgence back to 6, maybe even 7 ISK, although that's going to cost the loss of quite a few capital ships or super capital ships or something like that. That would need to be rebuilt, because at the moment basically supply is so much higher than demand. The first 2 billion orders at 417, definitely really low prices, although I don't think they're completely unseen for ISK for titanium. At the moment we're definitely at the 1 year low, very low price point, and I would consider stocking up on maybe a few opportunistic buy orders at this point. But of course we've been there before, right? Used to be 6.5, then we've gone down to 5.5 ISK. We tried a little bit with the Ascension expansion, but now we have been cratering once and then a second time. This is dangerous. You should also be wary of not catching a falling knife. Still, titanium well below 5 ISK is something that seems to be on the very cheap side to me. Next up we've got pyrites, and unfortunately yet again we see the very same thing. You would think 7 ISK is historically extremely low. For titanium 4 to 5 ISK is not unseen. For pyrite 7 ISK is unseen. I don't think I've ever seen that before in the years that I've been playing EVE Online, but it's not enough. Nope, the market is dumping even more. Look at the huge volumes here, and we're going down towards 6 ISK for pyrite, 635 for the sellers, 605 for the buyers. First buy order of 2 billion units coming in here at 605. So a couple of players are starting to take their positions, but just look at the dumping here in the last week or so. All of this stuff going from 7.4, 7.5, and then we get 7 ISK, 6.8, 6.6, 6.5, 6.3, and 6.35 now. Quite a few of them coming in here as well. I feel like this is a little bit crazy again as well. Only time will tell if this will actually turn out to be a buy opportunity, because this is to me, this is in unseen territory for pyrite. This is as low as I've ever seen the mineral, but of course it is coming after actual mineral changes to the Rokal, which are completely disrupting the market at the moment. So It's quite interesting, coming from 11 at the start of the year, then to 9 ISK up, managed to hold this price range decently well up until the Ascension expansion, then the changes actually hit, and now you can see again in 2 legs we are going down to 1 year lows at the moment. Next up, after Pyrite, we check Mexalon, which is also starting, coming to an inflection point. Of course, luckily it did well, got back up to 75 ISK, which is a really good price, very respectable price for Mexalon. We're still selling for 74.9. buyers though are at 66.97, so the margin is widening up a little bit. And sell order volumes, it's okay, 20 million, 36 million, 18 million, that feels doable, but you can clearly see that a bit of an inflection is starting here as well. So I think basically from the general dumping that's been happening, must have been a big player, maybe some actual export from Nullsec. We might get some information on that if we get the January import-export numbers, because that should show up in just the goods that are being trucked into Jita. To cause such volumes that the prices are crashing even lower here. Mexalon still holding strong, so if you're selling a mineral, try to go, or if you're mining for a mineral, try to go for Mexalon. You're still getting a historically good price, and if we can manage to keep Mexalon at the 70 ISK range, then that, historically speaking, is still a really good price, and is the one thing that would still give me hope for Tritanium and for Pyrite, that we're actually in completely oversold territory, and that it's not meant to last, that we will actually see a resurgence of these. But the second leg down here is a bit worrying. Of course, it's probably also the time to take the risk if you want to take the risk. Next up here we get Isogen. After the Ascension expansion here, or even a little bit before that, you can see that we went from 90 ISK. 100 ISK historically I think is an okay price, average price for Isogen. So we were already under pressure. Again, the Ascension expansion causing a crash down towards 60 ISK, but here on the second leg down, again, we're going even lower. 57, 59.2 for the sellers, 52, 53 ISK for the buyers, which is historically, again, pretty much an all-time low for Isogen. It's under pressure just like Tritanium and Pyrite. Mexalon a little bit, but still at a high point. Again, this is worrisome, that we can still crash down despite these 1 year low prices, but at some point we should start to see a buy opportunity and a bottom form. What could be an indication could be something completely unrelated. So one thing to keep in mind, it's something that I've learned from the last FanFest, that's actually really important to keep at the back of your mind when you're watching these EVE talks or doing analysis on the market, trying to find your buy and sell opportunities. There is about 3 times more stuff in New Eden at current valuation than there is ISK. So even if the ISK faucets have been opened up quite substantially for a single month, that kind of an inflation is not actually going to cause the prices from everything to rise under that flood of ISK, because there is just so much more stuff in EVE Online, which means that a bit of a decrease in price, a decrease in price for minerals in general, high-sec minerals in this case, indicates that there's basically less ISK flowing towards minerals at the moment, and that should mean that there is something else that is being purchased very extensively, and that should be very high. If you can spot the market where the ISK is actually flowing to at the moment, and you see that increase stop, that is of course when you have a good indication that the mineral market might be bottoming out or even making a bit of a comeback. It's something to keep in mind. It's not because you see these minerals drop off that, well, that's it, we're done with minerals completely. A buy opportunity could show up, and it's not because you're seeing inflation on the monthly economic report that everything is all of a sudden set to increase in price, because there is just so much more stuff in in the economy of EVE Online than there is ISK, that it's wild swings and different markets can actually be impacted differently, it creates opportunity, it creates volatility. It's important to keep that in mind. So At the moment, basically, there is no interest in minerals. These are dropping off to very low prices, but who knows, this might actually turn out to be a buy opportunity. Here is Noxium also going a leg down towards never before seen low price of 327. So the sellers are at 339 ISK, the buyers are at 306 ISK for Noxium. Again, 1 year low and all-time low basically for Noxium on the medium daily prices here. Pretty crazy stuff, and I'm not sure if I'm going to buy at this point, but I'm basically starting to be happy that I'm building up some stocks in Cheetah, because at some point I do feel like this is going to change, and that we'll see a comeback for these minerals. Let's hope I'm right, because otherwise soon miners will be out of business, which is actually, well, it's another thought that just crosses my mind here when I'm saying miners go out of business. It's also something to keep in mind, is that because of the sandbox nature of the economy in EVE Online, stuff like this tends to become self-regulating. If mining becomes completely unprofitable because of the crash down prices, people are just going to start doing less of it. They're going to start doing more different activities to make ISK, which is going to depress that market, and is of course going to increase the mineral market again. So patience is also a very important aspect of keeping an eye on the market here. So hopefully these all-time low prices for the high-sec minerals and for Noxium are not cause for panic. In fact, you should, I think, start to look for the reasons why ISK is not flowing into the mineral market, and is it the right time to buy? I think it's starting to be the time to look into that personally. Next up, null-sec minerals. We've got Zydrine here. Let's take a look at that chart if it wants to load. So we know that Zydrine made a very nice comeback, which again to me is an indication that yeah, the mineral market is not completely dead. There is definitely hope there, even for titanium and pyrite at very low prices. So from 950 ISK back up to almost 1300 ISK, doing that right after the Ascension expansion while all of the other ones have crashed down is definitely quite noticeable. And we can now here see that we're giving back a little bit of ground, but none of that is in panic territory. This was basically a bit of a sell opportunity, and the stocks that I bought here after the summer on this downtrend, which I slowly did not as an investment but as an idea of using that for manufacturing, I actually sold them at this peak. Same with Megasite. So over here your sell opportunity is over. Zydrine is going back down, and well, if you're looking at this increase in price as ISK flowing into these null-sec minerals and this now stopping, it could be a positive thing for the other minerals. Next up here we've got Megasite, very same picture, except that we actually went to a 1 year low of almost 1600 ISK, so giving a bit of ground there is normal. Sellers are at 1439 ISK for Megasite, buyers are at 1355. I definitely made ISK on the Megasite that I bought too early quite often, you know, August, September, October and November. I actually bought some Megasite in several smallish buy orders in the few hundred millions, I would say, but here at this increase in price I also sold a little bit earlier around the 1400 mark, but still I'm pretty happy that I got a little bit of ISK out of the Megasite trade, and I see this one as a positive aspect for the other minerals. The fact that we're still managing to see these 1 year high prices in January. So a lot of ISK must have flown there, which could be part of the problem with the other minerals. Morphite next. We're definitely stopping here as well at 12,000 ISK, pretty much as a top, which was definitely quite okay because you could have bought this for less than 9,000 ISK. We're still selling at a decent price, 10,879 for the sellers, 10,000 for the buyers, which is, well, we would prefer to buy our Morphite below 10,000 ISK, but if you're looking for an investment and you know about Tech 2 losses that are in the pipeline, then this could still be an okay time to move in. But yeah, there was a sell opportunity at 12,000 ISK here for people that bought November or right after the summer for stuff that they bought below 10,000 ISK basically, which was always a decent buy, although you'd needed a little bit of patience, and this low decrease in price again felt like it was quite worrisome, but we reached the bottom, 8,600 8,700 pretty much, you know, which means buy orders maybe 8,500 or something like that. And as you can see here, in about 2 months, we did manage to increase that by 400 ISK. Let's say 3,000 ISK, which is still definitely about 30% increase in price. That's something that you're making some ISK on. So Morphite is under pressure a bit after the increase in price, but if you manage to buy for less than 10,000 ISK, yeah, unfortunately, basically your sell opportunity is over. The question is, because we've seen this hesitation before, might another sell opportunity show up? It's always possible. Quite interesting, the mineral market here. So yeah, these all-time low prices for some of the minerals. On the one hand, they're a bit worrisome. On the other hand, this could become an incredible opportunity as well. Moving on to PI 2510. Let's do that. Let's take a look at what they're doing here. Construction blocks back on its average, seemingly decently stable. Fresh sell orders, only a couple in the last week or so. So nothing that is going to disrupt the price all of a sudden. On the buyer side, we also see 1, 2, 3 in volumes 23, 40k. All right, all of this actually feels decently balanced. I would say construction blocks is set to remain at this current average price. Okay to sell, and if you want to save up for a better sell opportunity, I think that's not exactly the wrong thing to do. I just wouldn't buy yet. I would look to buy well below 10k for construction blocks. Consumer electronics next. Let's take a look at that. Yeah, a little bit of lag on the chart here and there. Still, it's better than before. Starting the year at 10,000 ISK, but that's definitely below the average. Average maybe 12.5, and we were below average towards 10,000 ISK, but we're slowly crawling back towards 12. So I would say consumer electronics, your buy opportunity is over a little bit. Sellers are at 11,800 ISK, starting to get towards 12.5. And the buyers are at 10,900. You probably want to buy this well below 10,000 ISK here. This first sell order of buy order below that is 9,500 for 100,000 units. So if this would drop out, if somehow these orders would get filled, I would look into buying some consumer electronics well below 10,000 ISK. But at the moment the trend is clearly up, and so I think that it might just not happen. We might get back to averages, which I would say is 12,500 for the sellers on consumer electronics as well. A bit of a lull here in the PI market, with the second one going towards the average. Luckily, coolants is doing something quite different, heading for a second 1-year high, basically of around 14,500 ISK. Sellers are at 14,900, buyers are at 14,000 ISK. This is great for people that have PI gas planets and make coolants. Incredibly good time to sell now. Basically, it's what you want to do. Which again is one of those products where at the moment, for some reason, ISK is flowing into this quite heavily. Enriched uranium next. This is again back on the average if we look at the full 1-year chart here. So I would say yes, average price 13,950 for enriched uranium for the sellers, 13,200, definitely a pretty small margin. Fresh sell orders in the last 24 hours, none of them. 2 days ago 6, 7, feels like it's okay. On the buyer side, pretty much the same. A couple of days ago 10,000, 76,000, sellers are 17,000, 22,000. This feels decently balanced, and so for enriched uranium we're at the average price. Okay to sell, but definitely a bit too early to buy. Mechanical parts next. Ooh, just like coolants, working on a 1-year high, going towards 14,000 ISK. Sales are at 14,500 ISK for mechanical parts. That is definitely pretty crazy. Sell those mechanical parts from your barren planets, no doubt about it. Buyers are up to 13,600 as well. Yeah, I would say these two are great opportunities. Unfortunately, you're probably a little bit too late to switch your production all of a sudden, but if you can bring it to the market quickly, definitely go for it. In fact, it means that I'm going to empty my planets a little bit early this time, because it's just too good an opportunity to pass up. Oxygen next. Basically on average yeah, basically on average, although we did climb back in the last few weeks here. I still don't think that we're in the exceptional territory. Sellers 511 ISK, bit above 500 is probably a respectable price, maybe a touch above average. Buyers are at 460, which is probably around the average. So I would say for oxygen, it's okay to sell at this point, but you're not gonna get a huge profit compared to the average price. Robotics next, definitely climbing up at the end of the climb. Basically, we're starting to fall back down a little bit. So the high point was, let's see if we can grab this, a bit above 100,000 ISK. Sellers did fall back a little bit, 102,000 ISK now for the sellers. Buyers are at 96,000 ISK. Still on the 1-year chart, you can clearly see that we're above the average price. I would put the average price towards 95,000 ISK, maybe a bit above that. But so sellers would need to be close to that price range, I think, to call it average. As a result, robotics still definitely very good to be selling at the moment, but know that you're gonna add to the oversupply and it's going to start correcting towards less than 100,000 is pretty soon, towards an average price, I think. Rocket fuel next, well, the one that was so boring for so long. Look at the jump up, quite interesting, quite unexpected. I wonder if we'll start to see a more uniform picture in the median daily prices. So basically on average 12,000 ISK for rocket fuel, a little bit below or above that, has been the name of the game for practically a full year. Now we are selling them for 15,000 ISK. Buyers are forced to go up to 13,000 ISK. Basically someone came in, so we should see a volume spike right here. We see someone came in and bought 3 times the normal amount of rocket fuel in a single day for almost 1 million units, and as a result we have this massive jump up. So rocket fuel, the boring one, just jumped up, incredible sell opportunity. Bring your rocket fuel to the market, of course. One thing to note here again is that this is bound to be a lot of ISK that flows into rocket fuel here. This is quite a bit unexpected, but it's definitely a massive buy, an entire buyout of the market of anything below 15,000 ISK is basically what we saw happen here for rocket fuel. Self-harmonizing power cores. This of course is tied to the structures. So after knowing a really good price at the Citadel expansion and a second resurgence a little bit for the Ascension expansion and the engineering complexes, we can see that the market has absorbed all of that, and that now we are in a steady oversupply situation where we are breaking 2.15 million. Sellers are at 2.15 million, buyers to 121. Does that make sense? Yes, it does, by just a small margin. But once this buy order is filled, we're back to 2 million. And I think the pressure, if you can look at the volumes here, 653, 200, 134, 238, 249, and all of this full front page here, which is several thousand units coming in the last 24 hours, it's pretty obvious that this pressure is slowly going to continue to build up. Before Citadel expansion, we were at less than 2 million for close to 1.9 million for self-harmonizing power cores. Unless CCP all of a sudden announces the drilling platform, I think this is just basically going to continue. Superconductors next. Okay, that's a very annoying price point here that shows up, which is skewing the chart a little bit, so we could go like this, I think. Still just below 15,000 ISK. Is it just below? 14,600 for the sellers, 13,600 for the buyers. Interesting. Alright, this is actually again tied to structures. That's basically the explanation. Before the Citadel expansion, we were at around 12,000 ISK, or even less than that. Yeah, 11,600 ISK. Massive jump up in June. Probably it should be related to the Citadel expansion. Then of course we have, after Citadels are being built, we have the massive oversupply, people moving their production because they see this incredible opportunity. So we're back down towards less than 12,000 ISK, and here with the Ascension expansion we went back up quite significantly, and now at the tail end we're finally moving back down. What is interesting and unexpected in my book is that superconductors lag behind. So the Citadel expansion was in May, You can see that it took a month, and then the big spike, pretty much 50% increase in price, happened only in June. And here again, Ascension expansion is in November. The peak is actually in December. So maybe superconductors are needed for stuff like the power cores, stuff like the wetware mainframes, and so people were already producing those, looking at those more heavily, and then all of a sudden, oh, we're running out of superconductors. It's time to grab those for even more production. And as a result, we have this delayed spike after the expansion. I think basically that's what's happening there. At the moment, we're definitely still in a good sell order territory with 4,600 ISK. I think a normal price is actually 12,000 or less than 12,000 ISK for superconductors if there are no structures, new structures being developed and released. Test cultures next. Man, I'm having a tough time pronouncing. Coming off of a second high spike here of around 16,000 ISK as a median daily price, quite high. But now we're recovering 9,000 ISK again, which is probably average or a bit below average. So quite a wild ride for test cultures, but sellers are back to 9,750, buyers are at 9,000. I would call this average for test cultures. You can see that we go as low as 6,500 on the median daily prices at the low point. So look for that 6,500 for a buy opportunity right here. Very wild swings, so incredible opportunities for trade, but they're apparently quite short-lived and quite violent for test cultures. Wetware mainframes next is going to be a similar story to the self-harmonizing power cores. One thing that I had noted during my preparations of the Citadel expansion before May is that the wetware mainframes were becoming a bit of a bottleneck. So these were the ones that were basically not available anymore at any even remotely reasonable price. As a result, I think it means that the decrease in price here takes a little bit longer, but you can see that same trend that here just before the Ascension expansion, people moved in to produce and to get ready for the engineering complexes. So we jumped up to 3.1 million, and now we have this slow descent to 2.8 million. But it takes more time because I think wetware mainframes have been a bit more of a bottleneck than the other advanced PI materials that are needed. Still, we can see decently strong supply here, almost a full front page with 530, 368, 349, 528 right there. It's definitely a lot of supply coming in. I think that just like the self-harmonizing power cores, this pressure is set to continue for now until CCP decides to announce another structure that requires these materials. So that's it for PI. Quite an interesting market, a couple of incredible sell opportunities which I need to make my move on, but no real buy opportunities just yet. So I'm seeing this as quite strong demand, maybe again part of the reason why minerals are so low. Moving on to Tech1 chips next, 3750. And these, I think we can go over these pretty quickly, considering that minerals are, especially the high-sec minerals, are dropping off again. Null-sec minerals are under pressure, although they're coming from decently high prices. But here for the Caracal, we can again see price under pressure. We should see basically cheap Tech1 chips at the moment. Supply-wise, I think people are basically not going crazy. People are looking for great opportunities when it comes to industry, and so we are seeing that the Caracal, fresh Caracals, only 6 new sell orders, 19, 17 and 9. They're not that incredible in volumes either, so yeah, pretty timid Caracal market. Another possible explanation is that with the changes to the mining to nullsec with the Rorcal, basically nullsec becomes more self-sufficient, and so they're much less reliant on the JITA market in order to create their fleets, which could of course be part of the reason why we're seeing this lower activity in the Tech1 market. But yeah, Caracal, as you can see here again, under pressure together with the minerals, and just not that many being produced. The Cursor next was very stable, but you can see here at the tail end that it's not holding on anymore. 1.13 million, definitely below the average price at the lower price range here. Since the Ascension expansion in 2 legs, we are going down quite substantially, and despite the fact that it's not that many sell orders, what we do see is 104, 298 Cursor. coursers being brought to the market in the last 24 hours. The volumes are pretty big. This is 1 hour warning, so we still have a little bit of time. So compared to less than 250 being sold on average, and then someone or a couple of people bringing 500 coursers to the market now, I think it means that they know they can make them very cheaply, or they could make them very cheaply in the last few weeks. So they're pumping out some coursers, but they'll find that the demand just isn't there, and that they're basically lowering the price, lowering their margins. Dominics next. Yeah, very annoying chart for the Dominics here. Actually making a little bit of a comeback, which is quite interesting. Although we did go to a very low point of 160 million, we're now settling at towards 190. Yeah, 192 for the sellers, and I think a buying must have happened. Not that noticeable on the volumes tab, but yeah, 192 for the sellers, 170 for the buyers, and you can see that basically we were empty of Dominics here all of a sudden. Basically anything below 192 million is gone. Well, yeah, 192. This is actually several, and they're still coming in at this price range. It's a little bit weird, to be honest, because I think you can make Dominics for way less than that at the moment if you consider the mineral price. So I'm curious to see if people will spot this opportunity, and if this gap will actually get plugged decently quickly. For instance, if you're making coursers, you're definitely wanting to switch to Dominics at the moment, I think. So quite interesting, definitely one that we need to keep an eye on in the next few weeks to see if people are going to come in, realizing that they can probably make Dominics for way cheaper than that, and then trying to sell for 185, 180, 170. I'm not sure exactly what the correct margins are on the minerals compared to the current prices, but it should be a massive profit if you can sell for 190. So yeah, look for that gap to be plugged, to be honest. Merlin next, under pressure a little bit. Volumes, well, are basically going down since the Ascension expansion here, and here 1,700 units not going to help. 330,000 ISK for the sellers, 258,000 for the buyers. On the 1 year chart, you can see that we are trading towards the lower end range here. So it's also a frigate, a little bit trickier to tell because it's so small. Doesn't need too many minerals. Here for the Oracle, very interesting in my book. We can see that after going for really low prices towards 66 million, we had two spikes back up here. The last one is probably explained by these volumes here, although at the tail end here we can again see a sharp drop off, which is very reminiscent of the final drop off that we were seeing in the mineral prices. So I think that oracles are being dumped here. Yeah, in the last 2244 coming in at 73 million, bars are at 61.5 million. Basically, I think that the Oracle industrialists are pretty close on the ball. They realize when they can make cheap oracles, try to bring them to the market and sell them. There is some demand for that. All of a sudden, people do buy them and jump the price up from 66 to 76 million. But it's always short-lived. That gap gets plugged very quickly, and thus as long as the minerals stay cheap, the Oracle is going to be under pressure. And you can see that since December we're definitely trading well below the average compared to the rest of the year. The Raven next. Try to climb out of this just like the Dominics towards 170, 180, but it's already going back down. And so here we can see, let's take a look at that. So currently sellers 163.5 million, buyers 155 million if you're interested. But what we're seeing here is 138 Ravens coming in at 64.5 million. That should still be profitable, I assume. But what is more interesting in my book is that you can go to like 82 days ago 172 million, then someone comes in with 170, then someone comes in with 167, someone comes in with 165, and now we are down to 163.5. And this is the same pattern that every couple of days people say, hey, this Raven, that's still quite a decent margin, let's undercut by a few million. Couple of days later someone else does that again, and I think that's basically what's going to happen to the Dominics market in the upcoming days and weeks as well. So the Raven going back down, trading towards the lower range, which is normal considering that they are battleships, they're bigger, they require more minerals, and thus at the moment comparatively very cheap to make. The Thrasher next, it's a lot less pronounced, but you can also see here that since December we are trading at the lower end of the range towards 1 million ISK. Sellers of Thrashers 1,085,000 and the buyers are at 952,000 ISK. What's notable here, the lack of demand. There's just not that much on the buyer side of things. The Tornado next could be interesting as well. It's one of those tier 3 battle cruisers. So I think we'll see that same pattern as with the Raven exactly. So we're going down in price to 60 million under pressure from the very low minerals. By opportunity, people move back, but yeah, the margins just are there. You can build these tornadoes for so cheap that in just a matter of several weeks, we go from 81.5 million, 72 million, 70 million, then we're going down to 67 million, and now 66.250. 66 million basically for the sellers for tornadoes, which is constantly putting pressure on this price right here. Sorry Dominic, it looks great at the moment if you could sell for 192, but if the Tornado, Raven and the Oracle or any indication, this is going to get plugged by really big margins, people undercutting each other, trying to still get a profit, which you can even at these prices considering the low mineral prices, and that means that we'll be going back down quite quickly. Here is the Tristan chart next, quite confused when it comes to the median daily prices here, going from 700,000 to 450,000 in a matter of days. Is a little bit crazy. The 5-day moving average is also moving quite erratically, but Tristans are selling for 484,000 ISK, 485 actually. Buyers are at 455. This should be more stable than it is. I'm not exactly sure what's happening with these Tristan charts, because that's pretty crazy. And let's take a quick look here. 485 and 455 on the charts is, well, the buyers are definitely at the low range and the sellers are below 500,000. Is still average, I would say, but yeah, it's a frigate. It's a bit trickier to tell exactly what's happening here. The Venture is starting to bottom out at the current price range. Hit, well, and then someone still comes in with 1800 Ventures at a price of 213,999.88 ISK, so 0.1 each other at this bottom price is a bit crazy, but of course it's a Tech 1 frigate. It's not what's going to make you huge amounts of ISK, I think, on trades. The Vexor next, 89 days, 88 days, 87 days, all of that nothing. 86 days since the last, so 4 days since the last sell order. But the reason is, of course, that we are under pressure since then. So I think it's actually pretty normal that people are holding off on the Vexor, because once again, trading here at the 10.3 million range is well below the yearly averages. But all of that is normal because of the low mineral prices. Moving on to Tech 2 ships, 4730. Let's take a look at these. Let's see if we can find some action for the Ares. So if we look at a chart like this, there was a little bit of an upswing here. So from 21.5 to 24 to 23 million. No, you're not going to make any trade money on that, and we're already recovering from this. So Ares, nope, a little bit too stable, not exactly in the right point. Now the Claw is very interesting. You can see on a massive volume spike that we went up from 21.6 million to 30 million. So that was a great opportunity. You can also see the very sharp recovery. We're already back down to 22.75. The question is, where are the buyers at? Are they close to 20 million? 20.8 million, still a little bit too early. I would like to see this closer to 20 million, but you can see that there is very strong demand at this price range already. So if you want to buy for the next increase in price, you should probably already try to purchase a couple of claws at the current buy order ranges. But if you're in the know of why this huge volume spike happened all of a sudden, then of course it might be the right thing to do. it's very good in my book that we're seeing this sharp volatility though. This is a matter of 2 weeks, and you could have bought them for 21 million, sold them for 30, bought them again for 21 million. Again, don't go crazy with the volumes, right? The opportunities of these are still somewhat limited. It's not that because you're gonna buy 2,000 claws and make billions of profit. It doesn't really work that way, but for several hundred million, I think you could have made a very decent profit on this spike here, showing that the market is alive. And considering the very strong demand I'm seeing at 20.8 million, I would say if you're looking to buy, you should already start doing so for the claw at this point. Here is the crow next. He tried to do something pretty similar from 23 million to 27, 29 million. So it's a bit more timid, but we're back on the leg down here. So the question is, where are the buyers at the moment for crows? 22.4 million on the chart. It's definitely at the low end here. So I would say that the crow, if you're expecting another bump up in interceptors, could also be in decently interesting buy order territory. Good again here in October to see a nice price spike, which meant that you could have bought these for 24 million and you could have tried to sold them for well over 30 million, which is going to make you a little bit of risk. Again, very volatile, sharp drop off again, but a great opportunity, which was this volume spike here. These 3 days must have been a party. Next up, we've got the Aries. So that's an interdictor that I thought was not moving all that much. Still, I'm going to keep an eye on those. It's actually dropping off quite substantially. 1 year low, I think we're very close to that. 38 million average price. Buyers down to 35.2 million. This to me looks interesting. If we look at this entire 1 year chart, if I move it all up a little bit. Here, look at the median daily prices, well below 40 million. Yeah, this to me looks like a buy opportunity for the Aries. It was very stable from October to January, but here you have a bit of a spike up and then a bit of a spike down. So for your consideration, to be honest, a couple of Aries at 36 million might turn out to be a pretty decent purchase. So another buy opportunity, quite interesting. The flycatcher next. That unfortunately I would say is right smack in the middle of where it should be normally, and this volatility here is an anomalous data point that just doesn't count. So this one is just a little bit too stable and right on the middle. I wouldn't be making a move there. Heretic next. That is quite interesting as well, of course. We can see that after this volume increase, someone must have been dumping them. We went down from 58 million and currently selling for 55.7 million. Actually quite still quite respectable. 41 million for the buyers. That's a very wide margin for the Heretic. 41 million, that's all the way down here. So this is quite surprising. I wonder, do you make money buying for 41 million, selling for 55 million? I think the upcoming weeks could be interesting for the Heretic. Right now, I would almost gamble buy orders, but it's probably too early to tell. So that's a very wide margin, just a little bit unusual to see this. You can also see that we did climb up from average price of 45 million to 58 million, but that was in several steps, and so it's not exactly Twitch trading here, but longer term trading. This could be interesting if you're willing to try and buy a couple at 41 million. Still, if I look at this chart, you're probably not gonna buy them for much lower than that. So I'm really surprised by this. Maybe one possible explanation is that just 4 days ago we had this huge volume spike that it was actually dumping to buy orders, so that all buy orders above this have been filled out, and so this would make this a great buy opportunity because this price is going to crash down quite substantially because of that, I think, if that's what happens. Next up here we've got the Hound style bombers. Very, very interesting in my book here. So in just a matter of less than 2 months, you could have bought for 21 million, sold for 26, gonna be more than that, I think, because that's the wrong point. Let's take 28 million here. Second sell opportunity at 28 million, another buy opportunity at 20 million, and we're back down towards 20 million. Buyers are at 18.9 million. So I think again the hound, if you expect and hope for the volatility to continue, which I personally do hope for, you could start looking into purchasing some cheap hounds here, relatively speaking. You can see that both in December and early January we had an incredible sell opportunity in these. Malediction next, again also a nice little spike up here, recovering. Unfortunately 24 million on average still means that 24 for the sellers, 22 for the buyers. And if you look at the full 1 year chart here, break it down towards 20 million, 21 million is definitely a possibility, I think, for the buyers to be below that. So a little bit too early, but another sign of life for the Tech 2 market. Manticore next. I always found this one to be a bit trickier because it's more expensive for some reason than the other stealth bombers. You could put the buy order limit at around 22 million. And here we did have two sellers at 28, 29 million, which is not bad. Again, volatility showing up. At the moment we're on the downtrend, but where are the buyers at 23 million? Still a little bit too high. And this Manticore, I feel, always has a little bit less volatility than most of the other ones. Here is the Nemesis next. So here we're basically recovering after this price spike up to 30 million from 20 million. That's what I'm talking about, right? Manticore, basically a little bit of a narrower band than the other stealth bombers, but that was a great opportunity on a huge volume spike. And a very bottom, look for 20 million for sure. Less than 20 million on the buyers. We're right around that, so you could risk it, but honestly, if a bit more supply comes in, we could go decently below that on the buyers as well. Purifier next here, actually working its way back up towards 26 million, which is quite high. Here you can see buyer opportunities at 21 million. So buyers are at 22.5, which is quite high. Sellers are at 26 million. Unfortunately, someone is coming in with 531 purifiers, so you need to undercut that a little bit. But yeah, purifiers, you can definitely sell them. You can see historically that buying for less than 20 to 21 million must be possible, absolutely. And so currently selling for 26 million should yield you a little bit of a profit. So there you go, Purifier, one that you might actually want to sell if you have them. Here are the Sabers next. So we're coming off of a lovely spike up to 67 million, pretty crazy, going back down to 54 million, but we are of course looking for buy opportunities at around 45 million. So Sabers currently selling for 54 million. You can see the undercutting, well, not by that much, although here 55 to 54, 56, 57, 59, 50, yeah, 59 and a half. Buyers are still at 50 million, so Sabers probably at the tail end of sell opportunity, but just about a week ago you had an incredible sell opportunity that was building up here up to 60 million. Again, volatility in the Tech 2 market, I love it, and I'm actually seeing some buy opportunities start to form in some of these. Wasn't the Hound, I think, we're starting to look really interesting with buy orders at 80, well, 18 point, yeah, less than 19 million should make you some money if a spike like that happened again. And the Heretic has this really weird margin here. I would look into that, to be honest. 41 million for the buyers, 55 million for the sellers. That's definitely a very wide margin. And was there another one that looked pretty interesting on the buyer side of things? I thought there was one, but maybe the Crow. No, it was the Aries. There we go. The Aries, definitely 1 year low prices at the moment. Buyers at 35.2 million. I think this could be one where I want to buy one or two of those myself, to be honest. So there you go. Tech 2 market. Glad to finally see it come back alive a little bit after, well, since May, since the tax changes, all of that was dying down quite substantially. So good to see some volatility there. Next up, Tech 3 market, 58 minutes. Let's write that down and let's get started here. So the story in the Tech 3 market has been oversupply, under pressure, 1 year lows as well, which is, I think, a little bit strange. You don't really need a lot of minerals for that, but Confessor selling for 30.7 million and still 120, 290, 240, 151 coming in. Buyers are at, well, 29 million, let's say 27.7 million, so just one buyer of one. So yeah, Confessor teetering at 30 million, 1 year low prices, and still still oversupplied like that, which is pretty crazy. Hecate next, also going for a 1 year low here, definitely 32 million on the chart, 30.7 million, and still 120, 120, 100 being dumped here. Yeah, pretty crazy. 28.7 million for the buyers. At some point, just like with minerals, this is going to be so low that it's gonna become a buy opportunity. The biggest risk here is catching a falling knife and making that mistake. Jackdaw next, 30.7 million. Look at the dumping. 55, 15, 82, 120, 213 is the latest sell order. That's pretty crazy. Buyers are at 27 million, again with the 1 year low. And then finally the Zwepel, wasn't that one coming back a little bit last week? Let's see what that, yeah, it tried to come back last week, but now it's dumping back 30 million. So that means that we get sellers indeed, 222, 369, 200, 200. 108 at 30.7 million. Buyers are at 28 million. These are just, yeah, extremely low prices, and up to you to decide, of course, whether or not you want to risk the investment. It always feels like a really big risk, but these 1 year low prices to me feel pretty damn crazy. Let's see what the cruisers are doing. That could give us an indication if it's a general oversupply problem. And we can see that the Legion is also teetering on very low prices of around 130 million. Sellers are at, and then the supply here is going to be interesting because we saw that all of these destroyers are well oversupplied. Here we have the Legion selling for 135 million. Buyers are at 128, 125 million, even if you just fill one order. And half page, well, a bit less than that, but still 40 and 11 of them coming in here as well for the Legion. I would say slightly oversupplied. Yeah, average volumes are down to 50 or something like that. So this is looking like still oversupplied and trying to find a bottom in the Legion. Next up here we get the Loki. What are you doing? Actually, we're coming back a little bit. That's quite interesting, although at the tail end we're hesitating as well, and coming back from 120 million. Volumes here dropping off a little bit. So sellers 136, and oof, look at what's happening in the last 24 hours. People coming in from 140, 139, 138, 137, 136. Yeah, 137 basically is where they're stopping, but here they're all competing with each other with their Lokis. So not good news. I think this is again an indication of oversupply. Buyers are at 126 million for a Loki, so this should actually drop back off, surprisingly enough. Proteus next, again playing with the 1 year lows, 130. Sellers, are there sellers? This is the really important part, because then we'd have sellers of all of these tech tree ships across the board despite these prices. And we do look at that full front page of new Protea coming in from 137, just above that, 49 here, 19 here, still coming in, 10 here at the latest one. All of them no buyers, 125 million. Proteus oversupplied despite the fact that we're at 1 year lows again. And here we have the Tengu. May have already seen from the ticker that that one has gone down as well. Here, okay, this is bound to recover, but unless, let's take a look. Fresh sellers, more man, 1.5 full front pages, including 10, 40 here again, 10 here again, going down towards 139 million. Buyers are at 131 million. So the Tengu below 140 is actually the best selling Tengu, and you can see that the supply is moving in here, but across the board, tech tree ships, 1 year lows, oversupplied, and I think at some point it has to stop. So the question now is going to be timing. When is the right time to put up your buy orders? I think what I personally like to see is nope, yes, empty buy orders. No one is buying them. All of these are close to all of these are considered, I think, opportunistic buy orders. So try to pick one up at 126 million, and at some point on a surge of the price, you're making really good bucks on those Protea. Loki, yeah, 126 million. You know, these are investors moving in on these cheap Lokis. Legion here again, 128. You know, someone is saying, hey, 128 for a Legion, that's gonna make me money at some point. I'm gonna try to buy one. And so here for the Jackdaw, look at that, 27 million. There's almost nothing. 100 Jackdaws at 27 million is someone that's saying, hey, that's a good investment. So yeah, Tech tree market is definitely very interesting for people looking to park some of their ISK at the moment. I'm quite surprised by this because across the board here now we have 1 year low prices and we still see the oversupply coming in here. Pretty damn crazy. And for the extra materials, we're gonna quickly check on isotope, 1 hour and 4 minutes, so quite a long one here again, but quite interesting to be honest. So helium isotope, the chart should be interesting. Man, that was a great opportunity. Look at that low point in December, 558, currently selling for 694, selling for almost 1,000 ISK. Helium isotope resurgence completely missed by me. So that's something that you should have looked to buy after the Ascension expansion. Hydrogen isotopes much more stable, unfortunately. Still, you had a buy opportunity at 5.7, currently selling for 6.82 on average. Sellers are at 6.81, slight opportunity. Nitrogen isotopes next. Actually still well below its average, but we had a bottom at 6.32, now coming back for 7.19. Okay, and then finally we have oxygen isotopes actually holding pretty strong, much more stable at 704 ISK. So very strange. Helium isotopes, what the hell happened here? Bottoming out to a 1 year low at 560 and now coming back all of a sudden. 700 ISK on the chart, sellers are at 987. If you bought here for 500, you're almost doubling your price of helium, and that in around 2 months, which I think it would be a pretty damn good turnover. So that's an opportunity that I missed. Maybe I should try to look at helium, at the isotopes, at least once a month or something like that for the extra product, because I would have spotted this, to be honest. If we had checked here in December, I would have spotted this buy opportunity and I would personally have made a move on that. And now just a month after that, you would already have had a sell opportunity, and now it's actually going a little bit crazy on the seller side of things. So yeah, I still miss stuff as well. This year is though 1 year low 560. This is the same chart that you're now seeing in some of these tech tree ships as well, right there at that bottom part. And to my surprise as well, for minerals you can also draw the same parallel right here with the final leg down of these minerals. Still, keep one thing in mind, of course, when it comes to the isotopes, not that much has changed in that mechanic. When it comes to minerals, a lot has changed in the Ascension expansion, and so it's definitely more risky. If I would have to do gambles, right, then I would personally be looking mostly at some tech tree investments at the moment. And that's going to be it for this IF Talk, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, I will see you next time.